So you're probably thinking, okay, blue cheese on popcorn, interesting. But that's just the beginning of our fridge rescue mission. This week, we are embracing the waste not, want not philosophy and getting creative with what's this close to going into the trash can. We're staging a kitchen intervention, but we're not just preventing waste, we're unlocking a whole new world of flavor, convenience, and kitchen creativity, one freeze-dry experiment at a time. And it starts with thinking outside the box, or in this case, outside of the refrigerator. Welcome or welcome back to A Better Choice Homestead, where on my channel I focus on food, growing it, preparing it, and preserving it. Today is Friday, so this is an edition of Freeze Dry Friday. So get ready to see some transformations. I'm going to be starting with some Nancy's sour cream. I just purchased this in my April Azure order, which I showed last Sunday. I absolutely love this sour cream. It's thick and creamy, and it has just the right amount of tang. It's absolutely delicious. I ordered a 6-pack, and it came with a Best By date of April 30th, and there is no way that we can go through 6 containers of sour cream in just a couple of weeks. So I'm going to restock my freeze-dried sour cream. Now, the Harvest Right app suggests loading the trays no more than 3/4 of the way full. So that's what we're gonna do. I don't know how many containers that is going to take here. I don't want to use more than 4 or maybe 5, but I can dedicate up to 2 of these trays with sour cream. I'm gonna spread this out. Looks like I can probably get at least 2, maybe, well, I don't want to do 3 per tray, because that would be all 6 containers, and I want to leave at least 1 container, if not 2. I know this will last beyond the Best By date, but I don't want to go too far over that. Let's go with 2 for now on 2 trays. This is going to come in handy whenever you're ready to make something requiring sour cream and you realize, oh no, I'm out. And it's happened, and it is no fun having to make do or to change your plans or to have to run to the grocery store at the last minute. So I really like having some sour cream on hand that's freeze-dried and easy to reconstitute. That amount looks perfect. So we'll do 4 containers of sour cream. This will also act as a wonderful flavor enhancer and thickener in things like beef stroganoff or casseroles, egg dishes, even some pasta sauces. This just powders down super easy, and it's fairly easy to reconstitute this as well. It does take a little bit of time because you want it to set up in the refrigerator, and you're going to want to use some warm water, and I'll talk about that when we do the reconstitution when this is freeze-dried. I have the original Harvest Right freeze dryer, so that's an indication of the size of the trays I have. They are different than the newer Pro models, but this looks pretty good. I'm just trying to even it out so it has a relatively consistent dry time throughout. That looks pretty good. We'll set this one aside. Next, I'm gonna do some horseradish sauce. I bought this horseradish sauce a while back, actually a long while back. I really do like horseradish sauce, but I typically only use it on like roast beef or leftover roast beef for sandwiches. It can also be used on some baked potatoes or in salad dressings, in eggs. But honestly, I don't think to do that most of the time. And so here we are with an aging product that I don't want to lose money on. So it's going to go into the freeze dryer. This is totally an experiment. I love the smell of horseradish. It's very pungent, so I am definitely interested to see how this comes out once it's concentrated. I don't want this to come out in a hard lump. I want it to be kind of free-flowing, and it's pretty thick. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of water in here and mix it up before we pour it on the trays, because I think that will help with the end product, at least with the desired results that I'm looking for. So I'm just gonna add a tiny bit of water. I don't want it runny, but I definitely don't want it like super thick either, because I think that's just gonna come out like a brick. I just added a splash of water in there, and now I'm just gonna get that stirred up. Hopefully it is not too runny. It doesn't look like it's going to be. All right, let's see how that comes out. You know, we are in spring now. I'm trying to clean things, and I just love resetting everything, cleaning out the refrigerator and thinking, this might be good freeze-dried. That looks really good, and it is for the most part, staying where it needs to be. There's a little bit of runoff here. I don't know if you can see that, but there is just a little bit of runoff. So I think I'm gonna take a paper towel and just let that soak in for a minute. I can push this back probably even a little bit more because we're not to the top of the tray. I just don't want this juice melding with the rest of the flavors that we're gonna be putting onto the tray. So I'm gonna dry that off. That looks really good, really clean. So once this horseradish sauce is freeze dried, I can turn it into a powder and then a spice or a flavoring addition. But I'm also gonna try reconstituting a little bit at the end of this video just to see how that worked out. Now we're gonna move on to some tamarind paste. Tamarind paste is made from the fruit of the tamarind tree. It has a complex sour flavor. It's commonly used in chutneys, in pad thai dishes, stir fries, even candy. And when you use it in a dish with sugar, it really balances well, providing a really nice flavor. And it can even be used in cocktails, though I've never tried that. I did find some recipes where the tamarind concentrate can be used in margaritas or mojitos, something like that. I even found an article that said that it pairs really well with like coconut milk or coconut cream in certain cocktails. So I might give that a try this summer. But I did buy this a long while ago. It's gotta be a couple of years. And we're coming up to the Best By date. It's 6/30 of 2025. And I know that in a couple of years, since I have only used this much of it, there's definitely no way I'm gonna get through the rest of that by June. So I'm gonna freeze dry it and see what we can do with it. Are you familiar with tamarind paste? Have you ever used that before? I'm gonna use the other end of my horseradish stick here to get this mixed up. This is not as thick as I remember it being, so this might be problematic on the tray. We'll see. I might have to do this one separately. It is a little loose and I just feel like it's going to spread. So I have to think about this for 1 second. Because the other thing I wanted to put on here is my blue cheese. That's probably gonna take up half a tray with some spillage. The only way I think I can prevent the spillage is if I put some parchment paper down and use a divider. Let me try that. On the one hand, it's good that it's not as thick as I was expecting it because I don't think it's gonna have a problem freeze drying, but at the same time, I remember it being thicker, more like peanut butter. And it could be because it's aging, because it certainly is. So I've wrapped my divider a couple times in this parchment paper, and now we'll see if I can get it. Oh, that might work out just perfect. So here's my divider, and I wrapped it in the parchment paper. Let's pour it and let's see what happens. I am in and out of my spice drawer a whole lot more often than I am rummaging through the doors of my refrigerator, where all these little types of jars end up getting pushed to the back and forgotten about. So I think this will get more use if it's in freeze-dried form. And look, I didn't even need quite that much space. So I'm gonna try to create a little more space for the blue cheese by pushing this back even more. I'm just gonna lift and encourage it to push this way. Let me just use a clean spatula and we'll get it pushed down and refolded. Yeah, I think this is gonna work great. Look at that. We got a lot more space in here now. And I don't think we're gonna have to worry about any runoff. Excellent. I'm gonna put the blue cheese here. I also took this out of my refrigerator. This is homemade honeyed garlic, and it is absolutely delicious. This is something that you can just nibble on when you're not feeling well, because garlic definitely helps with your immune system as well as honey. And this has been in here for probably 2 years now, and I've added garlic to it. As I've used it, I've added some back in, but this is absolutely delicious. So good. The garlic at this point is soft and fully infused with that honey flavor. I really do want to get a piece or two of this in this batch as an experiment, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that with how these trays are loading up. After we load the blue cheese, we'll see if we have room for a couple pieces. Now, I know honey can blow up in the freeze dryer. Let's get this in there. I just ordered a 3-pack of it in my March Azure order, and I absolutely love it. This is the best blue cheese that I've ever tasted, and I did find out I can get this locally as well with only like a 13-cent difference between picking it up at the grocery store or ordering it from Azure. So, you know, either or, just depends on if I have an order ready to go with Azure. We've used this in salads so far, and we've used this as a veggie dip, and I am really curious to see if I can get this to freeze dry into a powder so I can use it as a flavor blend. I'm thinking that it would be absolutely fabulous on eggs, maybe scrambled eggs or even topped on top of deviled eggs, any type of eggs. And if you've ever had a really nice, hot, steamy, juicy ribeye that had a little bit of butter compote, blue cheese butter compote on the top of it that was melting over it, that is so incredibly delicious. And so that is what I'm kind of thinking we might be able to achieve with this if I can get it into powdered form. You can just serve a little dry sprinkle of it right as it comes off the grill or out of your cast iron while it's still hot and juicy, because that juiciness will help rehydrate this. I think it's going to be really good, but we'll see. You never know with an experiment, but I think it's going to be good. So fingers crossed that this comes out. Let's figure out how we can get this onto this tray. All right, let me give you a look at this. This is one of the thickest and creamiest blue cheese dressings that I have ever had. I mean, look how thick that is. Just gorgeous. So I think I'm gonna do the same thing with the parchment paper. All right, I'm gonna get a feel for where we're gonna end up. So if we start here, and we wanna end about here, so I'm gonna roll this up to there. Okay, let's try this. We're just gonna push up against the horseradish sauce. There we go. Now we have 3 sections on our freeze dryer tray. And I am so happy about that, because this, oh my gosh, it is the best blue cheese dressing. Blue cheese dressing and dip, literally, that I have ever tasted. It is amazing. So good. We have effectively filled 3 of our freeze dryer trays. We have 1 to go. I have some lime juice here. Now, this has been in my refrigerator for a little bit. I haven't used it in a while, and these do end up going bad. Rather than take a risk on this going bad and wasting it, I'm gonna get some freeze dried. Once freeze dried, I can rehydrate this for use in drinks or for marinades or in salad dressings. I can add the powder to dry mixes for cakes or muffins or cookies or something like that. I can also use this in homemade seasoning blends, and I can sprinkle it on seafood or other dishes for a burst of citrus while cooking. What else? Am I missing anything else? If you can think of another use for freeze-dried lime juice, let me know, please, in the comments below. I'm just gonna give that a good shake. Now, the Harvest Right app says that juices can make a sugary mess in the freeze dryer, and that they should be diluted with 70% water. I don't think that'll be the case here, since there's not a lot of natural sugar in limes. So I don't think I'm gonna worry about a lot of extra water, but depending on where we end up here, I could add a little. Smells really good. Okay, so we're probably 1/3 of the way up on this tray. The challenge with doing a lot of liquid on the tray, if you have a freeze dryer, you know, is transporting it. So now that I have this on here, I have to get it into the freezer, and that could be tricky because we can't hold something this shape and size and this shallow steady enough not to spill anything most of the time. So I could add a little bit of water to this, or I could leave it be. I think I'll add just a little bit of water, even though it's gonna raise the level. I think we're still at a low enough level that I can get it into the freezer without making a huge mess. So I'm just gonna add a little water to the jar and we'll mix it in here. 70% water would be a lot more than one full jar. So I'm just gonna eyeball this and we're just gonna pour some in and then we'll mix it through. I just don't wanna go higher than halfway up the tray. And now my refrigerator is cleaned out and my freeze dryer trays are full. I'm gonna make sure that this is the first tray that I put onto the freezer shelf because I use my top shelf. And so that's the one that I'm gonna be able to slide in more at eye level versus having to go up higher, which is a greater risk of spilling this. So this will be the first one I put in there. And as for the rest of these, the order doesn't matter to me. So here we have the tamarind concentrate, the blue cheese dressing, and the horseradish sauce. And I'm still trying to figure out if I can sneak a little bit of this honey in there. You know, I bet I could. I just want to try a piece or two to see what it comes out like. I don't want to do a whole tray of it. I don't want to, you know, get rid of a whole jar of this, or, you know, there's half a jar in there. But I'm totally curious as to how this would come out. So I think I'm going to push that horseradish sauce back just a little bit and sneak some of these pieces in there. Just got a little piece of parchment paper here. I don't need a lot, and that's about the right width, folded in half like this. If I push this sauce back a little, yeah, we've got plenty of room right there. Now, if I can just make kind of a three-fold on this, so folding one end towards the middle. Let me see if I can show you. So folding this end towards the middle, and then this end towards the middle. Then I have a two-sided piece to work with that I can hopefully get nestled down right in here. And I'm actually gonna unfold one of these side pieces here so I can put it over the top of the garlic honey, because I don't want it to explode and get all over the rest of the food. So I'm gonna lay just a couple pieces. I'm not gonna go for the super tall or super wide, you know, big pieces. I'm gonna go for some smaller ones here. I'm just gonna put those in, dig in for the small ones. Well, you know what, maybe I'll do one larger one to see if it works with a larger one. I really wanted to try this. And that honey, it's a garlicky honey, it is so good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna fold this back over. And while it freezes, the lid of the tray should hold it down. And then we'll just see what happens in the freeze dryer. So tray number 2, good to go. And then we have our 2 trays of sour cream. There's 1 and 2. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put these into my freezer overnight, and then I'll meet you over at the freeze dryer in the morning. We'll customize the settings and we'll get them processing. All right, let's customize this for the product that we have. So according to the Harvest Right Freeze Dryer app, sour cream wants an initial freeze of -10, so we're good there. And it wants a extra freeze time of 1 hour. I don't know if I have to do that because these are now pre-frozen, but I'll go ahead and I'll put that on there. And then it wants a dry temp of 115, so we're gonna lower that. And that is the same for ranch dressing, which I know we're not doing. We're doing blue cheese, but they don't have anything in there for blue cheese. The only other difference on here that they had something listed for in the app would be the juice, but they didn't have lemon or lime juice. And that said an extra freeze time of 2 hours. But again, since everything is already frozen, I'm just gonna leave it like this. So -10 initial freeze, 1 hour of extra freeze time, 115 degrees Fahrenheit for the dry temp, and my extra dry time, normal setting, is 15 hours. We're gonna go with that. They didn't have anything for the horseradish sauce or the tamarind paste, so we're just gonna hope that those settings work for here as well. So we're just gonna save this, and then we're gonna push start, and then we're gonna wait 15 minutes for this to be ready to load the trays, and so I'll just bring you back then. All right, the freeze dryer is ready to go. Here is tray 1 of our sour cream. Tray 2. This is our lemon juice or lime juice, and I decided to put a piece of parchment paper over the top of it just in case it does puff up. I don't want it to make a mess on the underside of this shelf. And here we have our tamarind paste, our blue cheese dressing, our horseradish sauce, and our honeyed garlic, which I'm hoping will stay covered so it doesn't balloon up possibly and get on the underside of that shelf as well. I'm gonna put it towards the front just in case. And then we just need to close our drain valve. And then just push continue on the machine, and I'll bring you back when the timer is at 0, and we'll test for dryness and hopefully have some good results. Fingers crossed. We are 2 minutes or a minute and a half under 45 hours on this run. So we're gonna go ahead and open the door and take a look at these. So let me open the drain valve. There's not a ton of ice buildup in here, maybe a 1/4 of an inch. We'll start with the sour cream. So here's what it looks like coming out. It is super soft and powdery. That looks great. Second tray. Looks lovely. Very dry, very powdery. Here we have our lime juice. That smells amazing. That smells like concentrated lime, but I think I'm gonna have the same problem with this that I had on the cherry juice. It's just plaster to the bottom of this pan. So we'll see what we can do about that. All right, so first here is our horseradish. Our blue cheese, that looks interesting. That does not even feel dry, so not sure that that is something that we're gonna be able to put on the shelf. Definitely in the fridge, but not on the shelf. And then our tamarind sauce over here. Now, here's our garlic. Look at the puff on that honey. I can't wait to give those a try. Let's get these into the kitchen and take a closer look. So I think we've got some pretty mixed results here. The sour cream looks like it came out fantastic. It is very dry, very powdery. It looks lovely. So we're gonna get this into a container. This is my jar for freeze-dried sour cream. You can tell that there's not much left in there. I'm gonna fill this up with as much as I can, and then with whatever's left, I'll put that into a Mylar bag. So we'll start with that. Just gonna use my big funnel, my bench scraper, and we're just gonna get it right into the jar. And then we'll take some out and we'll get it reconstituted. We can certainly fit some more in there. I'm just breaking down any of the large lumps. Make sure we can get this fully in the jar. There we go. Filled right to the top. That looks good. Now I am going to reconstitute some of this, and the Harvest Right app says 1 part of sour cream to 1.5 or 2 parts of water. I'm going to go with the 1.5 and we'll see how that works. And I'm going to use warm water because sour cream has fat in it and the fat has congealed. And if you just use cold water, you're going to be left with a grainy, gritty result. So if you use warm water, it'll help melt those fat granules down and make it smooth and enjoyable. Now it also doesn't say whether or not your measurements should be packed or loose. I'm going to assume packed. So I'm going to smush this down a little bit. And that's probably where the variation comes from in the 1.5 to 2. So let's do 4 tablespoons of sour cream. To, what was it, 1.5 warm water. So that would be 6 tablespoons of warm water. And I think I'm just gonna dump it into one of these little cups I have here and measure it out from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, smells really good. Here's what we're looking like. It looks pretty good. You can see up here, see all that grittiness? That's the fat. So that's what we're dissolving in the warm water down here. So I'm just gonna let that sit for a minute. When it cools down a bit, I'll stick it in the fridge for a little while, let it set up, and then we'll give it a try. The garlic does not feel freeze-dried. It's still soft. So definitely not shelf stable, but we do have a nice little ball of crystallized honey up here. And I'm gonna give that a try. It tastes completely the same as it does from the jar. So no point in doing that, except if we eat just the crystallized garlic flavored honey. That is delicious. And it does kind of coat your teeth like a piece of candy would. I do like it, but it's not worth freeze drying. I'm gonna set that aside. And now we have our horseradish sauce. So let's see how that came out. Okay, that comes apart well. And that does flake down. It does leave a little bit of a greasy feel on my fingers. And I don't know if that's because some of the juice of the honey got on it. I'm kind of suspecting that that might be the case because this end of it does look more dry and feels more dry. So I think some of the honey might have gotten onto this. Well, give it a taste and then we'll see if it's got honey on it. So I'm gonna just put a little bit in this small jar here. And add just a tiny bit of water. Now, this would be a reconstitution, so you're just gonna go slow with the water until it is the consistency that you want. That was barely any water, but it's also barely any horseradish sauce. A little more. Remember, horseradish is kind of pasty, so that's the consistency that we're going for. That looks good. Let's give that a taste. Actually, I'm kind of interested to see how the powder tastes too. Tastes like horseradish, dry horseradish. It's really good. I would definitely do that again. I would just make sure that it wasn't going to run the risk of having honey get on it, because I think it did. That's really good. It is really strong, but it's also really good. I'm gonna put a lid on that. I'll just keep this in my refrigerator, but if I do this again, I'll make sure that we keep it dry. Now we can taste the reconstituted. Yeah, it's great. I'm not tasting honey, but I know that there is, because, or it might be the blue cheese, because the blue cheese didn't really dry either. So I don't know if it was the honey or the oil from the blue cheese, but something got on the horseradish to make it not 100% dry everywhere. But this is good, really good. All right, now for this blue cheese, this did not freeze dry. It is still wet and still greasy. And I think that that's what this is over here, where that honey was. I'm sorry, where the horseradish was. So this did not freeze dry. However, it did turn it into a crumble, and it did concentrate the flavor. So I'm gonna get some put into a little cup here, and we're gonna test it out. Yeah, this is still totally wet. So you can make your own blue cheese crumbles from blue cheese dressing by freeze drying it. I don't know, does Toby's make a blue cheese crumble, or do they just sell the blue cheese dressing? Because if they don't sell the crumbles, this is totally worth doing, because the concentrated flavor is incredible. Very oily though. This had a lot of fat in it. Definitely good to know. I don't mind doing experiments even when they fail, as long as we learn something. This is amazing. Where's my little spoon? This is better than a blue cheese crumble. It's got a little crunch to it. It just melts in your mouth into total creaminess. And the flavor is, I want to say bold, but it's not overpowering. It's luxurious. I'll say the flavor is luxurious. So we are going to use some of this We'll make a little treat here in just a little bit. I'm gonna show you how greasy this blue cheese parchment paper is. You see how greasy that is? So blue cheese is definitely too fatty for this application. If you want to get a totally freeze-dried product, I think this would be perfect to do ahead of a holiday or a get-together where you're gonna be serving food again. This would melt beautifully on a ribeye or other steak, but this would be a delicacy treat. And I would keep this in probably the freezer until I was ready to use it. Now for our tamarind, let's see how that came out. See if we can get it off the paper. It's definitely dry. It kind of adhered to the parchment paper a little bit. And I'm going to want to be careful because I can see that there's still parchment paper on the bottom of this, and I can see that it has moisture on it. I think it's the fat from the blue cheese. I think that fat kind of went everywhere. And that's probably what is on the horseradish as well. So I would do blue cheese again 100%. That stuff is crazy good. But I would do it on its own tray. There we go. Now we have some dry tamarind powder, or we will. Yep, it's got a little bit of blue cheese fat here on the top too. So I'm gonna take that corner off. I don't want fat in here. I think I'm just gonna break it into pieces in the jar. And we're going to take a little bit out to use because we're going to make a quick lunch. That looks good, and I'll just leave it like that in bark pieces. Put a lid on that real quick. And I've got some held aside that we're going to go ahead and get reconstituted. I'm just going to put it in this jar that's already wet. There might be a little too much water in there though. Let's see. Let's see what this does. For this, I would be going for the same consistency it was when I put it onto the freeze dryer tray. So I'm just crunching that down, and then I'll use my fork and we'll get that stirred around. And we're gonna let that sit for just a couple minutes. Oh, that looks like a good consistency. I think we did good. Smells good. Smells like tamarind paste. We have one tray left, and this did not work. This worked about as well as the freeze-dried cherry juice. This is just plastered to the bottom of this pan. Okay, it does come up. Okay, this is salvageable. We're not going to get every bit of it, but this actually is okay. Definitely a little messy. And pungent. It's going up my nose. And that really condensed it down. I don't have any more dry small jars, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it in here. Make sure my funnel was clean. And now we definitely have dry lime juice that we can use in recipes, as a seasoning, as lime juice, in cocktails, beverages of any kind. It didn't make very much though, so we condensed almost a full jar of lime juice down to barely the bottom of a pint-sized jar. And we'll get a lid on that. And this This feels like it's cool enough now that it can go into the refrigerator. So we're gonna let that set up while we make a couple of things to use some of these ingredients. Before I put that sour cream in the refrigerator, I am gonna blitz it with the immersion blender. I just think it's gonna come out better. 20-30 seconds should be good. We have a nice frothy, creamy consistency now. This looks good. So this is just gonna go into the refrigerator to get set up. Next, we're gonna cook up a really tasty, simple lunch. I have 1 chicken breast cut into cubes, about 1 to 1.5 inches. Half of an onion diced down into smaller pieces. I have 3 cloves of garlic here that are diced down into small pieces. I have some freeze-dried ginger slices. This is ginger that I've showed freeze-drying on my channel before, and it's just peeled, sliced, and freeze-dried. And we're just gonna get that into tiny pieces. And to that, we're gonna add a little sesame oil, so about a teaspoon of sesame oil. Then we're gonna add a little soy sauce or coconut aminos, and that's gonna be about 1/4 cup. And then we're gonna add in that tamarind paste. You only need about a tablespoon of that, and I think I've got just a tiny bit more than that, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that all in. And then to that, we are gonna add a sweet chili sauce, a Thai sweet chili sauce. And we're gonna add about 1/4 cup of that as well. I'm just gonna eyeball that with a spoon. I'm gonna add just a little bit of pepper. I'm gonna mix that around just a little bit. Remember that tamarind sauce is kind of a sour, so when you mix it with the sweet, it's really going to have a lovely balance of flavor. All right, 1/2 cup of water. And then we're gonna put our chicken in and we're gonna mix that around to coat it well. And then we're gonna stick this in the refrigerator for 45 minutes or so, just to let that chicken soak up all of those different flavors. And so that'll go into the refrigerator right next to our reconstituting sour cream. And while this is marinating next to the sour cream, we're gonna move on and we're gonna make a little snack so we can test those crunchy blue cheese crumbles, which I think is going to pair perfectly with what I have in mind. All right, little change of plans on that. I decided to make the chicken before I make the snack. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn my cast iron skillet on to about a medium high. And I'm just gonna do maybe a tablespoon or so of olive oil, just so we have a nice coating on the bottom of the pan. And this has been setting up in the refrigerator for about an hour now. We're gonna get the chicken cooked up first. I'm just gonna pull the marinated pieces out of here. And I'm just gonna let them kind of drip off back into the bowl so that we save as much of this marinade as we can. This is the perfect quick little lunch for 1 or even 2 people, depending on how hungry you are. We got to use our freeze-dried ginger and the freeze-dried tamarind sauce. This chicken is gonna cook up in about probably 6 or 7, maybe 8 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes per side. And we're gonna reserve all of this marinade because this is gonna become our sauce. All right, that's been 4 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and give these a flip. Got some nice coloring on the bottom here. Give that 3 or 4 more minutes. These look so good. And I'm always so tempted to be fussing around in the pan, but I haven't touched them. I'm trying not to touch them because we want them to fully cook. and get a nice caramelized bottom, just like we did on the top. And I've decided that I want to serve this over some rehydrated, freeze-dried, roasted eggplant. So I'm gonna put a few of these pieces in a bowl. We're gonna let this rehydrate while this finishes cooking. I love freeze-dried eggplant. Roasted eggplant is amazing, so good for you. So I just got some in the bottom of a bowl here, and I'm just gonna add a little water. Not a lot, just a little. This water is still a little bit warm. I'm just gonna let that soak up. And our timer has gone off, so these have been cooking for 8 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and just grab them off. We're gonna set them aside for a minute. Got some really nice color on these chicken pieces. They're just gorgeous. And now, I'm gonna drop that heat back just a tad and pour the sauce in. We're just getting this heated through, cooking off the raw chicken that was in here, and it will start to thicken up just a little bit as well. We're starting to get pretty thick in here. Just gonna give that another few seconds, and then we're gonna add that chicken back in. Yum. Come on, you guys, look at that. All right, let's drop our chicken in. The sauce is nicely thickened. We're gonna get the chicken well coated. I was thinking this would be great over some roasted broccoli or some other roasted vegetables. You could serve it over rice. And then I thought, hey, wait a minute, what about eggplant? I just think that that amazing roasted eggplant flavor is gonna pair really nicely with this sauce. And here we have our eggplant, fully rehydrated at this point. So I'm just gonna drop this onto the plate. It'll get heated up with this sauce. The roasted eggplant, oh, previously freeze-dried. Drop the heat on here, and let's plate this. Amazing lunch or even a dinner meal, but so quick and easy. And I know I'm using a smaller plate, but this is a lot of food. So this could easily serve 2 depending on how hungry you are. Look how incredible that looks. Let's give it a try. This smells slightly sweet, slightly sour, like a sweet and sour mix. It just smells incredible. And you know what? This would probably be amazing topped with some crushed pineapple or some pineapple rings. Let's give it a taste. Chicken is cooked perfectly. Let's get some sauce on there. Oh, yum. This looks so, so good. Ready? Wow. The freeze-dried ginger is really bringing some flavor. Everything in here is perfect. That was so easy. So easy. And now that tamarind sauce is gonna last a lot longer now that it's freeze-dried. I'm gonna mix in some of this roasted eggplant in here. Holy moly, this looks so good. All right, let's try it with the roasted eggplant. Wow. Wow. This tastes like something that you would get at a restaurant. I am not kidding you. This is phenomenal. And I just whipped this together. Whipped it together inspired by freeze drying that tamarind paste, tamarind concentrate. So if you haven't tried tamarind before, I suggest you do, and you can freeze dry it and use it as a dry, a spice to reconstitute, to cook in. I want more of that eggplant too. Wow. Just wow. You guys, this is amazing. So easy. I am going to finish that. Just not right at the moment. I typically freeze dry ingredients rather than meals. I want freeze-dried meals on my shelf, and I have some. I have some totes with freeze-dried meals in them, but I lean more towards freeze-drying the ingredients so that you can make whatever you want with them, like with the freeze-dried ginger, the freeze-dried eggplant, and now the freeze-dried tamarind paste. What about you? Do you lean more towards ingredient or more towards meals? Let's see what we can do with this crunchy, crumbly, decadent blue cheese. For our snack, we are gonna make some popcorn. Now, I've mentioned many times before that I like kitchen tools that can be used for more than one thing. So I do not own a popcorn popper, and I do not buy microwave popcorn. I use my wok. And to the bottom of that, we just need to add some fat, and I just happen to have some rendered bacon fat right here. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of that at the bottom of my wok. You can use coconut oil, I do that a lot. You can use butter, you can use oil. And then just add in some popcorn. I don't want to make a lot because I have a whole plate of chicken to eat, but I'm just going to drop this in. And I find that popcorn lasts anyway. Like even if I just leave it out in a bowl covered, it'll be good the next day too. And then we're going to get a lid on that. And once that pops, I'm going to drizzle it with some of my red hot chili oil, homemade. I did a video on this. Some home freeze-dried dill, and then our crunchy blue cheese crumbles, freeze-dried. Although they're not really freeze-dried, but they're pretty phenomenal. I cannot even express to you guys how amazing this flavor is. Tiny little bit of a crunch, it just melts in your mouth. It's so creamy, and the flavor is intense. It's intense, so I think that's gonna go really well on here. The flavor just keeps hitting you. I do think the most perfect application for this though would be as a topping for a steak. Just coming off the grill or just out of your cast iron skillet where it is still screaming hot and juicy on top. So this can just melt right into it. This only takes like 3 minutes to pop. So as soon as it's done, it's starting now. It should be done in just a couple minutes, and then we will get this flavored up and give it a try. Literally, that took 3 minutes. We have a perfect bowl of popped popcorn. Really healthy snack, but let's make it even better by putting on some amazing flavor. Some red hot chili oil. This has phenomenal flavor. A little bit of heat, but really good flavor. Some freeze-dried dill. Freeze-dried dill is amazing on popcorn. And I love the taste of it mixed with the red hot chili oil. A little salt. And now the freeze-dried blue cheese dressing, which has now become potent crumbles. Oh my goodness. That looks amazing. This I'm gonna keep in my freezer, and you'll probably see me use that this summer with some grilled meat. But this is ready to taste. Yep, seriously good, wow. What a great snack. We did essentially 2 pounds of sour cream and got 1/2 gallon jar filled. It looks great. It is sour cream again. Look at that. Let's see how it tastes. This one video is giving me a whole lot of calories, guys. It's smooth, it's creamy, it's not at all gritty. It's a little fluffed in there, I think you might be able to tell, but this came out great. So freeze-dried sour cream is a win. Just remember to use warm water because you have to melt that fat back down so that it can incorporate in with the rest of the product. We did almost a bottle of Santa Cruz lime juice, and we got a smidge of powdered lime juice that I will use in cooking or beverages. I'm not gonna need much because this was almost a full jar. This didn't laminate quite as much as the cherry juice that I did a couple months back, and I'm thinking that's because I added the water to it. Now the Harvest Right Freeze Dryer app says to add water so that it doesn't like explode. I think the water helps it from laminating. So I think if I wanted to do cherry juice again or lime juice or lemon juice or anything like that, I'd wanna fill the tray up with the juice and then water so that it would be not laminated to the bottom and we could actually get a good powder out of it. I mean, we got a decent powder out of this, but I think water is the key. So I think I've learned that lesson now after doing 2 juices. Well, the cherry juice and this lime juice, because the coconut pineapple juice that I did came out great. I got the tamarind concentrate or tamarind paste, same thing, freeze dried, and this is going to be good for years to come now instead of just until June. And you saw how easy it is to whip up a meal using this, and it imparts amazing flavor. And then we did our horseradish sauce. This I'm going to keep in the refrigerator, so I did not achieve my goal of wanting something that was shelf stable because I got some of the fat from the blue cheese on it. You can see it kind of sticking to the bottom. That's because of the little bit of fat in there. But it'll still be fine in the refrigerator, and next time I do this, which this came out great, so I'm sure I will, I'll just make sure to do it on its own tray. I think the star of the show this week is the Toby's blue cheese dressing and dip. 1 jar freeze-dried into crunchy, creamy, decadently flavored crumbles. And while they are excellent on something like popcorn, it's going to be even more amazing topped on a steak. So this I would definitely do again. Absolutely will do this again, but I will keep it in my freezer, probably in the door of my freezer, and then whenever we're grilling, especially if we're gonna be having a special dinner or having company over, I can pull this out as a treat that they wouldn't be able to get anywhere else, and it's gonna impart this amazing flavor that I just cannot express to you enough how wonderful that is. This was a win. Squirrel. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Freeze Dry Friday, where I was cleaning out my refrigerator and trying to make shelf stable some of the items that were nearing their best by dates. Have you done a refrigerator clean out to freeze dry? I would love to know if you have, what you tried, what your biggest success was, and what your I wouldn't do again product was. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Freeze Dry Friday, Refrigerator Rescue Clean Out. My name is Kelly, you're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.